Hello and welcome to another action-packed, exciting hour of the Smoky Mountain Wrestling Rewatch Along project. This is podcasting the way it used to be and the way you like it. This show is a production of the Something Else Podcasting Network and is episode number 075 of Smoky Mountain Wrestling from July 3rd, 1993, taped June 7th, 1993, at the Cumberland High School in Cumberland, Kentucky. My name is Arya, and joining me, as always, is the Cooler Ranch Doritos to my Nacho Cheese Doritos. It's Trey. Trey, how's you today?
Yeah, fine. I'm fine. I don't know. So I'm gonna break kayfabe just a little bit. If you listen to that absolute fucking train wreck of a show that we did last week, that was last week for you. That was about 10 minutes ago for us.
Technically,
So
it was yesterday for me.
I don't know how much steam we've got left, but we'll see.
This show's gonna go 4 hours, right?
The
Oh,
later that it gets, the more unhinged we become.
oh, we'll see. So, in case this is the first time you've ever listened to this show, first of all, what the hell's wrong with you? But secondly, what we do here, it is really quite simple. We watch every single episode of Smoky Mountain Wrestling, beginning with episode number 1 on February 1st, 1992. We go all the way to episode number 200 on November 26th, 1995. We talk about the good, the bad, the ugly, the indifferent, the so-so, the all right, the amazing, the tremendous, the out of this world, the unbelievable, the unforgettable, the unremarkable, the one of a kind, the stuff you'll remember forever, the stuff you've already forgotten, and everything in between. We watch some matches, listen to some promos, and talk about some angles, and just have some fun talking about old school wrestling for about an hour. And then at the end of the show, I tell you everything else happening in the world of wrestling, because I can tell you July 3rd, 1993 until I'm blue in the face. But this gives you some context where you say, oh, I remember that. Is that what was going on? And Trey, now that I inhaled so much air that you may have passed out over there, are you still with us?
When you do that spiel, I'm always a little worried about you. 'Cause I'm scared, like number one, you sound like Excalibur, like plugging like the next week of TV, like when he would do that on Dynamite, when he'd have to plug like
Yes.
Rampage and Collision and the next Dynamite.
And the
And I
next
was,
pay-per-view.
yeah, it's like I'm scared you're gonna have a blowout.
I'm still young enough to be able to get this done in one take. Although I don't always get it done in one take. There's like a month there where I was fucking it up every week.
You
I think the
fucking
fa
something up, I can't imagine.
I think the faster I go, the less fuck ups I do because it's like I have no time to think about what I'm gonna say. I just read it off. Because yeah, spoiler alert, I don't just come up with that every week. It's a written script that I've written down, which makes it even sadder that I fucked it up before.
Uh,
All right.
I
So
couldn't remember the spiel that long either. Don't feel bad.
so let's go to this week's intro with Bob Caudle and Dutch Mantel.
Welcome to another action-packed hour of Smoky Mountain Wrestling. Wrestling the way it used to be and the way you like it. Hi, wrestling fans. I'm Bob Cole here with Dr. Dutch Mantel. We got a great hour in store for all you wrestling fans this week. You're going to see in action the Bruise Brothers in action right here. We're going to hear from Jim Cornette and the Heavenly Bodies. Also Tracy Smothers, Rock and Roll Express, the Armstrongs, and more, all during this hour. Dutch, what about an update on our television champion?
Well, usually I draw a name out of a hat, but Bobby Blaze took such a butt kicking last week at the hands of the dirty white boy. The interim board of commissioners has decided to grant Bobby Blaze an extension to let him recover from his injuries. Therefore, a first of Smoky Mountain Wrestling, no beat the champ match this week on television.
Also, we're going to hear from Tammy on vacation with her bounty hunter. And a big main event, Del Rey is going to go against Steve Armstrong. That's going to be a great one. All right, fans, right now, let's go to the ring.
So Bobby Blaze, who last week got buried and won the TV title, has been granted an extension. So does that mean that, when he does come back, he has to have two matches to make up for the one
Uh,
match he hasn't have this week?
I would hope so. I
Yeah,
don't
because
know.
next,
I,
because like it's not like they said, oh, he doesn't have to have a match or whatever. we're giving him a week break to recover. No, they said he has an extension, which means that this week's match needs to happen, and then next week's match has to happen. And if not, if they don't do two matches, then we're just constantly one behind.
I wish that George Weingroff had stuck around and could have won the Beat the Champ TV title. Then we would have really had a TV champ with an extension.
I am surprised because, like, we'll get to this. Like, fucking Jeff Daniels, like, they taped 3 episodes, and Jeff Daniels jobbed in all 3 episodes. Rob Eagle was on several of them, you know, and George Weingroff was only on one. Like,
Tragedy.
kind kind of weird.
Yeah.
In addition to that, Tammy Fitch, who is the young lady who filed a sexual discrimination lawsuit against Smoky Mountain Wrestling, will be here. Well, she'll be at her palatial estate to discuss what's going on with her bounty hunter. And the main event, which if you'll forget by the time the main event comes up, I don't blame you because I did. It's Del Rey versus Steve Armstrong. And given such casual, thrown away such casually, that's like it's easy to forget that it was announced.
Yeah, it was funny because I watched both this episode and last week's episode back to back. So when it got to the end of last week's episode and it showed the little bumper and it said next week Jimmy Del Rey versus Steve Armstrong, and I'm like, oh shit, I can't wait to watch that. And I'm like, oh yeah, I'm gonna watch that right now.
I gave it like an hour break in between watching them because
Yeah.
like I didn't hate last week's episode, but last week's episode was more of a chore to get through. I thought this week's episode was much better, and
I today
Mhm.
I didn't have much time to watch any wrestling yesterday, so today I watched 2 episodes of Smoky Mountain, 2 episodes of Eastern Championship Wrestling, Rampage, and then Collision.
I know we've been through this, but why the hell do you watch Rampage?
Like Rampage.
Y- When that show gets canceled, you're going to turn on TNT Friday nights at 10 o'clock and just watch whatever the hell's on at that time, aren't you? I know the
Uh,
answer is no because that's not how you watch it, but let's pretend for a second.
I I'm just gonna move over to whatever AEW Shockwave ends up being.
You're not going to watch the third hour of SmackDown,
I don't watch the first 2 hours of SmackDown
but you're so used to watching an hour of wrestling Friday nights at 10. I thought you might, just watch the last hour just for the hell of it.
for the
There was
halibut.
actually, yes. Um, when Vince was still there and fucking paralegals, in like 2021-ish, I decided one week I was just going to start watching the third hour of Raw. Nothing else, just the third hour.
Oh
And
God.
the first week, it was pretty good. And I'm like, okay, this is a pretty good little experiment. I watch 1 hour of Raw. It's theoretically the most important hour of the show. Let's see how it goes. I quit after the second week. I don't even remember what was on the second week, but it sucked so bad that I could not watch 1 hour of Raw anymore.
So my WWE interest kind of waxed and waned over the course of the 2010s, and there was a period that I had kind of a lot going on in my life. So like from maybe like 2017 to 2019, I don't think I really watched much TV. But then during the pandemic, I just started watching it because there was nothing else to do.
Yeah.
So I watched WWE TV from like March to like the beginning of November. I remember when they start building for the Survivor Series, and then like they're building for brand versus brand when they just had like half the people switch rosters. And I just realized, oh, I don't fucking care about any of this shit. So I proceeded to not watch any WWE TV from November 2020 until like this January. In January, I decided, okay, all right, I watched the Royal Rumble and then I watched one Raw the night after, and then like after Elimination Chamber, I was like, okay, I'm gonna watch all the TV up to WrestleMania to see if it enhances my WrestleMania experience. And
Did it?
I maybe a little um I don't it here's the thing. It's it's watchable now. Like it's not brutal to watch anymore.
It's
It's
just a
just like
chore.
it is a chore. And I do like certain aspects of the presentation that they've changed. I give them a lot of credit for that. But it's like Raw and SmackDown were okay. NXT, oh, that was a rough show to watch.
Oh my God, NXT 2.0, it's like that, that, like,
Yeah.
oh
Now
my
I
God.
missed that whole era, thankfully.
I watched the first episode because that was when they did the Indy Hartwell Dexter Loomis wedding, and I was so I'm that person, I guess. When there's a wedding on wrestling, I get attached to it because I was attached to that Rosemary Johnny Bravo storyline in Impact. But it's like I was really into Dexter Loomis and Indy Hartwell. I loved that. I loved them together. It was
So
great.
are they still married in kayfabe?
I believe so. I mean, technically, Dex got fired at one point, and like I I don't even remember who the hell it was, but I remember Indy was married to Dexter, and there was another relationship in NXT, and the woman from the other relationship got fired at the same time as Dexter, and they did a backstage segment where Indy and the guy like just kind of looked at each other, and the guy made a move, and he's like, "Don't even think about it," and you know. It was like the only thing they did there until Dex came back. Because I think they did it like 1 week. They did the index thing, but that was about it. Because then Dexter disappeared until they started doing the Wyatt Six.
So do we assume that Dexter Loomis got fired and his wife divorced him? That's sad.
Yep, indeed. She couldn't handle being with him, I guess. I,
I
I can't
I can't honestly blame her.
I can't believe this is the road we took.
I wondered after the show last week. I'm like, what do we have left that we can just completely go into the fucking woods about? And damned if we didn't find something. Have we even talked about the first match?
No, we haven't. Bruise Brothers with Jim Cornette versus Not That Jeff Daniels and Robbie Eagle. Not That Jeff Daniels went 0 for 2 the last 2 weeks, teaming with Paul Lee, so he took on the Maestro as a partner. Now, we mentioned a couple weeks ago that the Bruise Brothers squash matches are exactly like Kevin Sullivan's squash matches were. They hit the ring, they murder the jobbers, and they get disqualified. And to be honest, and I'm pretty sure I mentioned this at the towards the end, I was so freaking tired of that being Kevin Sullivan's TV matches. It lost its luster like by the end, and they just stopped doing those a couple months ago, and now here we are doing the exact same thing with Ron and Don Harris. It's possible I would enjoy it more if either A, the Sullivan thing hadn't happened, or B, more time had passed. Like in this case, like the second the Bruise Brothers came out, I just stopped paying attention. I just wrote they got disqualified and Daniels and Eagle won.
I honestly, like the only thing that really makes this watchable is that Cornette's doing commentary over it, which makes anything entertaining.
I
But
I
yeah, I had
I
a
will say
point
that.
that I was gonna make, and I don't even remember. Oh, okay, I remember. All right, so the Bruise Brothers are wrestling for the tag titles on every show of Summer Blast,
Mhm.
and if I counted correctly, they have won zero matches in Smoky Mountain Wrestling.
You are correct, sir. And
And
like,
spoiler, they're gonna win the tag belts.
see, I was going to avoid saying that, but yeah,
I'm sorry.
no
I'm
worries.
sorry.
Um, I will say that, like, I'm so used to watching these horrible fucking Harris Brothers matches, in WWF and WCW and TNA. It's like this, for all intents and purposes, this wasn't terrible. It's just, you know. like I said, when you get to the point and they're just doing the same gimmick they did with Sullivan, where they just get disqualified, it's like you just become numb to it. And this crowd, it's like this crowd was dead, like for a lot of this show,
Oh,
and it's
yeah.
like it didn't help that it's the exact same match that they just saw 2 hours ago with these guys. And I know they wrestled somebody else. I'm not going to go back and look, but they wrestled somebody else and did the got disqualified thing. But yeah, it's like this crowd. Do not go back to Cumberland, Kentucky, Jimmy. Do not go back to Cumberland, Kentucky, at least for TV.
So so not that Jeff Daniels and Robbie Eagle, not Robbie Eagles, have a win over the Bruise Brothers.
Over the linear Smoky Mountain Tag Team Champions. I guess they're not it yet because it's July 2nd. So it's they don't win the titles for until actually next week, I believe.
Is it July
Anyway,
2nd? I had July 3rd. Did I fuck it up?
oh yeah, it is July 3rd. Excuse me. I don't know why I wrote July 2nd, but because
Okay.
I'm looking at the video on my fucking computer and it says July 3rd in big stupid letters. You think I could figure that out?
Big stupid
So
letters. What are they? Comic Sans?
it's whatever VLC, whatever font VLC uses.
I
Um,
think that's a pretty plain sans serif font.
yes. So let's go. I wrote the Cult of Cornette, which is not quite what it is, but it's Jim Cornette and everybody he manages. Let's go to that promo right now.
Jim Cornette, the Heavenly Bodies, the Bruise Brothers, Big Killer Kyle. What a devastating group of beef, there's no doubt about it.
I want the first thing before I say anything else to these bunch of genetic defects out here in this audience. I want you to talk to the Gigolo because, brother, he's got a few things to say about those Armstrong women that still keep calling.
Del Rey, okay.
You know, Scott Armstrong's girlfriend sent me a picture the other day. It would make an onion cry. And every time I think about it, think about that picture, that girl that Steve Armstrong goes out with, my stomach turns. And Bob Armstrong, every time I think of you, I even get sicker.
Let me just say this. It boils down to this. This week's Summer Blast begins. The hottest season. You can see I'm sweating right now. The hottest wrestling matches in the hottest wrestling promotion in the country. The Rock and Roll Express come to an end at the hands of the Bruise Brothers. Unstoppable, unbeatable, indestructible, invulnerable. And then Scott and Steve and old man Bullet Bob Armstrong, Methuselah himself, come back for a six-man tag with the Heavenly Bodies and myself. Well, Bob Armstrong, I got no doubt that you can break my neck with 2 fingers. I'm not questioning that at all. But I do know this for a fact, Bullet Bob Armstrong. You've been hurt before, you can be hurt again. The Heavenly Bodies will take care of your boys, the fruit of your loins. And then my man Killer Kyle will always be lurking around, and he'll protect me. But one way or another, Bob Armstrong, you're not going to get the revenge that you have sought for so long at Summer Blast. I will be in that ring, but it will be to once again stand over your stinking body as it's carted off to the hospital and spit in your eye, and then dare your family to do something about it.
And the Summer Blast begins this week, man. We're going to be back right after this.
I will say that I noticed Killer Kyle a lot quicker this week.
I just want to say, typically great Cornette promo, and I know we say it every week, but Jimmy Del Rey is just so delightfully sleazy.
He is the perfect sleazeball. Um, it's like it's just hard to not love him. It's like I I'll wait till later to state my growing disinterest with the tag team division, and it's not anybody on this camera's fault. But we'll get to that later on. But yeah, just uh, it it's hilarious how much we're spoiled by great promos that it's like, oh, standard operating procedure promo here by Jim Cornette. It's like, whatever. But it's like, it was a really good promo. And it's like, he is getting really cocky, and Bullet Bob is really going to murder him very soon. You know, I can't
If
wait. And I'm like I said last week, I'm a little surprised. I thought they just did tag team matches with Bullet Bob in the corner. I forgot that they did 6-man tags all for 2 weeks. And I'm a little surprised by that. You know, I'm a little surprised that they brought back Bob and like the first match isn't the Bullet Bob Cornette match. It's this random series of 6-mans. And I guess it's a way to get multiple houses out of this feud, which is not going to be an issue for this company trying to drag this feud out a little bit longer. But I think maybe I'm wrong, but I think they could have done just as well this week and next week without Bob wrestling at this point, like him just coming back.
Yeah, well, he was probably itching to wrestle anyway because the whole thing was that when they started and Cornette kind of laid out that he wanted Bob Armstrong to be the commissioner, and Bob was kind of like, "Well, you know, I still wrestle, right?" And he was like, "Yeah, we're gonna build to it." And the idea essentially was to recreate the Cornette and Bill Watts feud from Mid South that we're gonna get to very soon. And I don't
I
know, maybe Bob just really wanted to wrestle. I don't know.
I mean, I'm sure he did, no doubt. I don't know, just it's a lot. And actually, I'm looking here. According to Cage Match, and again, like we said, they may not have everything, but they have a lot. Bullet Bob actually does not wrestle anywhere in 1993 except for Smoky Mountain, with one exception. He has a USA Wrestling TV appearance on March 6th against Mr. Tennessee, who is Larry Santo of all people.
He was supposed to team with Thunderbolt Patterson at Slamboree against
If
Ivan
you
Koloff and
move,
Baron von Raschke. And then
if
it's what they wouldn't just say that Bob Armstrong had a rib injury. They'd say he had a knee operation, but he was injured, and Brad took his place in that match, and it
I, I
was
mean,
not good.
I mean that may have been one of the injuries he had.
Maybe he got hit in the knee with a tennis racket somewhere in there.
If you move, Ole, if you move, my God,
You remember you remember the story? I think it was like a Flair story about the first time Harley Race was going to wrestle Kurt Hennig.
I do not remember this.
It's just, and you gotta imagine Flair doing doing Kurt Hennig and Harley Race. When he's Harley just asks him, "What's your finish, kid?" And very young Kurt Hennig goes, "Drop kick off the top rope." And Harley just takes a drag of a cigarette and goes, "I'll move."
I- In Flair's book, and I reread it a few years ago for like the first time in forever, but he talks about how wrestling has changed so much, and he mentions like, can you imagine Harley Race being in the ring when Shawn Michaels comes out and does his dance, and the referee going to Harley and saying, "Harley, can you go outside the ring while Shawn dances and takes off his chaps?"
Now I'm just imagining Harley Race beating the shit out of Shawn Michaels, and I think that would have been very entertaining.
And that would have been before the bell even sounded because it would have been a shoot. Um, so since I made fun of Thunderbolt Patterson's promo, let's play Thunderbolt Patterson's promo from WCW. Well, it's still World Championship Wrestling in 1990. Um, the YouTube video is called Thunderbolt Patterson. Thunderbolt Patterson makes threats. Dot dot dot. I think. Let's let's go to Thunderbolt now.
And I got this bell, and I'm bringing it in just a little while. You Championship Wrestling gave me the opportunity again to keep my eyeballs on the Ole. You have ruined folks' lives. Not talking about how you dealt with mine in the past, but in the recently. You have been getting on everybody's case. So this Sunday, If you move, I am going, if you move, this Sunday, it's time. Ooh, I'm so full. I'm full up to here. Same old. But they say it's going to be a change. There will be a change. History has already been made. Call somebody. Tell somebody. Only if you move. Just move.
Ladies and gentlemen. Okay, so Thunderbolt Patterson is a legitimate legend in wrestling. I don't know what his promos were like when he was in his prime, but him just saying, if you move, Ole, if you move.
Did
This
did you
this
ever
had to be
watch
good.
did you ever watch Metalocalypse?
I don't think so, no.
Okay, so it was this cartoon on Adult Swim about this metal band called Death Clock, and one of the guys' name, his full legal government name was William Murderface, 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 which is amazing on its own. But they established that his grandfather's name was Thunderbolt Murderface, which is the greatest name I've ever heard.
Why is there not a wrestler named Thunderbolt Murderface?
There should have been yesterday.
If you move, Ole, if you move.
I'll
Now,
move.
he has passed away, right?
Didn't he go into the WWE Hall of Fame like this year?
He did, but I thought that was like a posthumous thing.
I may be mistaken. Let's check Wikipedia here. Oh, I need to
Um,
type Thunder. I probably
no,
don't need to type Thunder Patterson.
no, according to the always
Oh,
reliable Wikipedia, he is still alive. 83 years old.
83, 83 years young.
Oh Lord. We should I was gonna make a joke, but I probably shouldn't. So
Hmm.
for once I'm going to side on on the air I'm gonna err on the side of caution here and just move
Because
on with our lives.
we know that Thunderbolt Patterson listens to the podcast every week, and we don't want to hurt his feelings.
He is going to be alive in 5 years and listening to the show, and that's how we get canceled.
Oh, you figured it out.
He's going to hear what we said about Willow last week and deem it racist.
Uh,
Oh, Lord. Let's go to Tommy Noe, who is in the affluent part of Knoxville.
Hello, wrestling fans. This is Tommy Noy on location for Smoky Mountain Wrestling. We're here in the affluent part of Knoxville. This is where Tammy Fitch is staying at in her stay in Smoky Mountain Wrestling. She has called a press conference to announce who she will be managing in Smoky Mountain Wrestling. Well, let's go to the door and see if anyone's at home. Hello, Miss Fitch.
Where have you been? You're 10 minutes late. You're holding up our swim.
Well, I'm sorry. Where's the press conference going to be held? We can go ahead and set up so it won't take long.
I guess by the pool.
Okay, let's...
Not through the house. You're gonna track mud on the carpet. Go around the back.
We're now at poolside with Tammy Fitch, and today Tammy is scheduled to reveal who she's going to be managing in Smoky Mountain Wrestling. Well, Tammy?
Well, first of all, my man has a few topics he'd like to discuss. So don't bother him asking many questions, because he's not going to answer them. They'll probably be dumb anyway. But anyway, I've heard that some of these hillbillies here have been saying some bad things about me, knocking me a little bit. But then it got to me at first, but then I kind of realized that Hillary Clinton's first 100 days were just like that, too. Everybody knocked her. They said she couldn't do her job. Well, now that the pieces are in place and she's settled in the White House, she's ready to govern the country. And I'm ready to become the First Lady of Smoky Mountain Wrestling. So I'd like to introduce to you the next Smoky Mountain Heavyweight Champion, Primetime Brian Lee.
Brian Lee, I can't believe it's you.
Believe it. I told you before, I'm tired of being a big man living in a little man's shadow. Tracy Smothers, you have everything handed to you. Primetime Brian Lee never gets anything handed to him. When Tracy Smothers was cheated for the belt, what did Smoky Mountain do? They held the belt up. When Brian Lee was cheated for the belt, Smoky Mountain didn't even recognize it happened. When they put the bounty out on Tracy Smothers, Rock and Roll Express said, I'll help you and watch your back, Tracy. Tim Horner, I'll help you and watch your back, Tracy. Armstrong's, I'll help you and watch your back, Tracy. Where were they when Kevin Sullivan put the bounty on me, huh? Nowhere. Primetime Brian Lee's his own man. I was put in the hospital for 2 months, no one watching my back while I'm watching it now. I won the TV title match. And what happens? Tracy Smothers jealous and sticks his nose where it doesn't belong. I had Dirty White Boy beat 1, 2, 3, who Tracy Smothers could never pin in 100 years. But what does he do? He comes in and tries to hog on my glory. Watch this tape and I'll show you just what I mean.
All right, so there's multiple parts to this, and we'll go through a few of them here. But I mean, he's not lying for the most part. He's not lying. Everything that he's gone through, and this really tells you how Smoky Mountain's booking has gotten a little repetitive at this point, but everything he's gone through, Tracy Smothers is also going through it, and Smoky Mountain is bending over backwards to help Tracy Smothers out when they weren't helping out Primetime Brian Lee in a similar situation.
If I didn't know any better, I would think that Brian Lee only got that few months as a top babyface because they were waiting for Tracy Smothers to be available.
Oh yeah, and again, not to go off topic, because we never do that. But like a lot of people talk about AEW's original roster, and like with all due respect to the people involved, their original roster was poor in comparison to what it is even nowadays. But it's like, and one of the people, Jim Cornette's one of the people himself, he, will tell you that that roster, the AEW day one roster sucked. And you can make that argument, but you could also easily make the same argument. And obviously, Cornette had a lot less money to work with, but still, Cornette's day one Smoky Mountain roster sucked. Like we said this, the top baby faces were primetime Brian Lee, Tim Horner, and Robert Gibson. And they can all contribute, to the best of their abilities, and they all have different things they contribute well. But like we would get promos after promo after promo with these three guys over and over again because they're the top baby faces. Like the first 6 months of this show, it's like shockingly I made it that far because there were times it was hard to get through until, well, honestly, what really kicked it off was the Heavenly Bodies Fantastics feud, and then Ricky Morton came in around the same time Robert Fuller came in. And then a little bit after that was when Tracy Smothers came in and cut his promo about how he's never been to Cheyenne, Wyoming, and he doesn't think he'll ever go there. And it was just fantastic. Did you ever see that? Uh,
No.
you need to watch it. I'll find it on YouTube and
Um,
send it to you. It's Tracy Smothers' debut promo where he's just sitting on not a rocking chair, but a porch swing, and he's just cutting like the aw shucks, down to earth, good guy, babyface promo. And it's like you wanted to take him home to meet your grandmother, like that kind of promo. But
so,
yeah, so that's my point. It's like the day one Smoky Mountain roster sucked, and for a lot of reasons, but it's like it got obviously a lot better, you know?
Tracy Smothers is an improvement over Brian Lee, and I don't think I'm being controversial when I say that Will Ospreay is an improvement over Jimmy Havoc.
No way. Um, I, um, oh God, what was I gonna say? I will still argue I mean, obviously, who cares at this point, but it's like, I will argue that they should have put the belt on Horner first instead of Primetime Brian Lee, because literally the only thing Primetime Brian Lee had on Tim Horner was that he was tall, and Tim Horner's not that tall. Because, yeah, Horner's promos suck, but it's not like, what's his name's Primetime Brian Lee's were setting the world on fire.
You think in the timeline where Horner had had a run with the belt that he might not have been such a prick later?
I think it's very possible. But anyway, we're gonna play a little bit more here. After showing the footage of when Primetime beat Dirty White Boy in the Beat the Champ match a few weeks ago, which, by the way, like, and obviously Tommy Noe, who my favorite part of that opening promo was when they randomly cut to Tommy Noe standing there holding the microphone, nodding his head. I just
Yeah,
laughed at.
I had never seen this man before, and I recognize the name Tommy Noe, but I heard
Yep.
Tommy Noid. You remember like the Noid that was like the
Yeah.
Domino spokesman? So
Yep.
yeah, how do you spell Noe?
NOE.
Okay, that makes sense.
So let's go back for this is a 30-second thing. We'll come back and there's a little bit more after that.
Primetime Brian Lee had Dirty White Boy beat 1-2-3 real easy. And that just churned and burned up Tracy Smothers' guts. He couldn't stand it. And then later, when Primetime has his interview, I'm standing there, Tracy Smothers butts in again. I'm over there trying to tell the people how great I am, how I'm the undefeated, first undefeated, history, put that in the books. Primetime Brian Lee, undefeated TV champion. What's Tracy do? He butts in on Primetime Brian Lee's interview again. Bottom line is he's jealous of me. Remember that?
Hey, we said it when it happened last week. It made like Tracy Smothers was a dick. Like, 'cause not only did he come in, yeah, he fine, he said his part, but like then he spent another minute repeating all of his catchphrases. So it's like
That's
last week was a big step one, or not last week at this point, 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago was a big step one, but it's like all of a sudden, okay, now it's time for the turn. It's like I think they could have done it a little better. Like had they done the Brian Lee, had they done this thing with Brian Lee and Tracy Smothers like a month ago, and then it simmered from there, I think it would have meant more than Brian Lee turning heel on day two or week two of the whole angle. But either
so he was
way, like
making
it it makes perfect sense.
and he was making a lot of valid points here. So then he did have to throw in a little bit of delusion when he was saying that he had the Dirty White Boy beat in the match where he in fact lost until Tracy Smothers told the referee what happened.
And thankfully Tracy Smothers is an honest person because he believed him.
By the way, on Eastern Championship Wrestling, the same week as this or the week after, they did almost that same finish with Jimmy Snuka defended the ECW TV title, which is an actual belt, and not George Weingroff's jockstrap. He defended it against Tommy Cairo and beat him, like pinned him with the feet on the ropes. And then Terry Funk came out and told the referee what happened, but they did not restart the match. It was just a reverse decision. But I thought it was I just thought it was interesting that those finishes were so similar.
Um, okay, now I forgot what I was going to say.
It's late, y'all.
Um, do you remember when I think we already discussed this on the show before, but what the hell? Remember when Anderson Silva lost the title to Chris Weidman? We were talking about UFC last week. And like Anderson Silva was goofing off the whole fight, and then Chris Weidman knocked him the fuck out.
Yeah, so here was the state of my MMA fandom. I started just kind of checking out some shows, and then I immediately like hated Anderson Silva because that was during that real like shithead era.
Yeah.
Like, and then so I got really into MMA when there was the Anderson Silva Chael Sonnen feud, and then so
Hmm.
the second time that Sonnen lost to Silva, that was pretty much like when I kind of checked out. And so then, like, when the thing finally happened, like the thing with Chris Weidman was like exactly what I spent like 2 years praying would happen to Anderson Silva, and then I never even saw it because I was just over it by then.
Um, so what I was going to say was, the same week that that happened, um, NXT, they did an angle on NXT and this, or a match in NXT, and this was when NXT was taped weeks and weeks in advance. So it's like this was not like one saw the other and did a live broadcast immediately after. They did a match with Mason Ryan versus Enzo Amore, and it was a 5-star match when you consider the participants, because the whole match was Enzo Amore dancing around like a jackass and Mason Ryan knocking him the fuck out. And so I was joking that UFC was stealing their main event finishes from mid-card developmental wrestling.
Oh, that sounds like a barn burner. I mean, like if that was the whole match, that's perfect. I'm just
It was
imagining them going
like
like several minutes, and that would have been a terrible idea.
that was the entire match. Because like this was during the
Fantastic.
period, like I forget if like he had started having more competitive matches, but Enzo literally never got in an offensive move for like a year. And it was like this running joke where it was like, every match would be him and Cass versus somebody, and he wouldn't even be able to punch anybody. He would just get his ass kicked, tag out to Cass, who do whatever, and then Enzo would, get his ass kicked again. But then it was
Well,
funny because Enzo broke.
shout out to Big Bill for managing to have a career resurgence after all he went through.
Like, oh yeah, like he's not obviously not the greatest wrestler of all time or anything. Like I don't think anyone's even considering him in the top half of AEW guys. But like he has improved so much. Like there was I was about to say when Enzo broke his leg in NXT, like Cass went from being on TV every week, doing a tag team match with Enzo most of the time, to never appearing on the show, and when he did, he would be a jobber. It was like for 6 months while Enzo's
Wow.
leg healed. And it was like, I
Wow.
remember thinking like, oh my God, how bad is this guy? When like they won't even put him on developmental TV during this 6 months when his buddy is injured.
He is much better now.
Yes. Um, boy, that was another one of those we went off the rails.
Where were we?
We were in the middle
Tommy
of the
Tommy
primetime Brian
Noid.
Lee. Yeah. Let's go back to Primetime Brian Lee to finish off his promo here. We're disrespecting him as much as Tracy is at this point. Please don't beat us up, Primetime Brian Lee. I'm pretty sure you're still alive. Let's go to that right now.
Glory Hound Tracy Smothers. If you think I can't whip Tracy Smothers, just take a look at this. Smothers it.
Okay, I suck at timestamps, I guess. Um, let me fast forward a little bit to find where the hell that ended at. Oh boy, don't you love podcasting?
Brian Lee, by the way, is still with us. Shout out to Brian Lee. I'm sure he listens to the podcast every week.
By the way, my timestamp for the last thing was a full 1 minute off.
Nice.
So, yeah, let's go to the actual promo.
I love it. Tracy Smothers, you're nothing but a pushover. You have $20,000 on your head. Primetime's going to get that. You have a heavyweight belt. Primetime's going to get that. And you're going to regret the day you ever crossed Tammy Fitch.
But Brian, why did you sign with somebody like Tammy Fitch?
Don't dumb yourself, boy. Did you see the 300ZX out front? That's Primetime's. House, I'm sleeping here. And believe me, Miss Tammy here knows how to take care of a man.
Brian, it's almost time for our swim. Why don't you go get ready? I'll be with you in a minute.
Sure, hon.
Okay. Isn't he cute? You know, you do a few favors for a man, and he'll do anything you tell him to do. I cannot wait to bring him back to Wellesley and show him off to all the girls. He's so big.
But how can you control a man like Primetime Brian Lee? I just don't understand.
Well, I don't really have a problem controlling any man.
Wrestling fans, Smoky Mountain Wrestling is coming.
So I must ask you a question. Could
Yes.
20-ish-year-old Tammy Sitch? Yeah.
Yes, I would have done anything that 20-year-old Tammy Sitch asked me to do.
In a bikini, because yes, at the end she strips off her robe that she's been wearing to a bikini, and it's like Yeah, I don't blame Primetime Brian Lee 1 minute.
I wouldn't kick her out of bed for eating crackers.
I don't think she's ever eaten a cracker at this point.
Uh,
Well, we're 45 minutes into the show and we've only made it 15 minutes. Just pointing that out. Um, so yeah, Primetime Riley says he's going to take the bounty. He's pointed out all the things he has now with Tammy, and Tammy can't wait to show him off to all the girls at Wellesley, before, in theory, jumping into the pool. Now, do you
indeed.
know whose house this was?
No.
It was the Knoxville chapter of Castle Cornet.
Oh. This was okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I kind of like I halfway thought that. Well, I thought, well, okay, this isn't the Castle Cornet. Then
No,
kind of
this is the
surprised that
Knoxville chapter of it.
Cornet bought a house that nice in Knoxville.
I don't
I
think
think
he bought it. I think like
well,
it was
maybe
a
he was
rental.
in. Well,
Yeah.
I think he lived in Morristown, by the way. So
Oh
is
yeah,
is
I'm
more
sorry.
is Morristown the
Morrison,
affluent part of Nashville?
apparently. But didn't they say the affluent part of Knoxville? Either way,
Yeah,
um,
Morristown is like a suburb of Knoxville.
there you go.
It's kind of like the way that
Um,
we'd always say the good part of Memphis is Germantown.
I will take your word for it. I've never been to Memphis.
Really,
I,
Memphis is a
yeah,
good city. I like Memphis.
yeah. If I actually do this cross-country road trip to WrestleMania next year, that'll have to be on the, if I can, because I haven't really looked at a map too closely to map it out yet. That should definitely be on one of the stops.
Yeah. Okay, now I am gonna say something controversial, and we're gonna get hate mail about it.
Steve
Memphis
Armstrong
bar
is a shitty promo.
Memphis barbecue is the best barbecue.
Is that a con? Oh, I guess you're in Texas, so
No,
yeah.
people are very attached to their barbecue. Yeah, I grew up in like Eastern Arkansas, so I think what I consider barbecue was like most closely resemble like would be Memphis barbecue. And there's like okay, Texas barbecue does like beef incredibly well, like beef brisket.
Hmm.
Not gonna beat
Hmm.
Texas brisket. Memphis is ribs. You're not gonna get better ribs than you will in Memphis.
Well, now I know what to do if I ever go to Memphis. Because when I went to Dallas for Mania, um, whatchamacallit, I went to a barbecue place next door to a Hooters because I had a friend I was meeting at Hooters to get a drink, and literally that's all we did. And then I went next door to a barbecue place and had dinner and had barbecue. It was pretty good, if I remember correctly. Um,
If you ever make it to Houston, I know where to take you for some barbecue.
Sounds good. Well, I'll have to try to figure that one out. Um, so during a local promo, and again, the reasons why we're skipping these fucking things. Steve Armstrong said, if you don't like violence, don't go to Hazard, Kentucky this Thursday. Apparently, he convinced people not to go. The the show drew 400 people, which while it was up from 250 in June, it was down from a high of 500 in May. So I guess the people in Hazard are indifferent to violence.
That's I don't know if that speaks well or ill of the people of Hazard, Kentucky.
Smoky Mountain champion Tracy Smothers versus Killer Kyle without Jim Cornette in a bounty match. Now, Trey, if this was a shoot, why would Tracy show up for his professional wrestling matches that are designed for people to try to collect a bounty? Like you're setting yourself up to get your ass kicked when just not showing up, because this wasn't a title match. So it's not like he was going to be stripped of the belt if he didn't show up. So not showing up would save yourself an ass kicking.
Look, Tracy Smothers is a true son of the Confederacy. He loves starting fights he can't win.
Well, before the match started, Kyle attacks Tracy outside the the ring. Tracy takes over, throws him into the ring, hits a flying double axe handle for a 2 count, which was weird because the match never started yet. Despite not being an official match, they had a nice back and forth before Tracy pinned him after a sunset flip, at which point the match started when the bell rang for the first time. So
Okay,
I'm assuming Tracy was counted out because the bell rang and then he left the ring.
okay, so I am like weirdly obsessive compulsive about match times, and it was a frequent problem on these two shows with the sound mixing where you could not hear. There were several matches that I could not hear the opening bell.
This was the only time I noticed that they're because like they made a point to say the bell hadn't rang yet before when they were fighting outside the ring. So I was keeping an ear out for the bell and it never rang.
Yeah, I think I don't know, maybe I assumed that the bell rang when they got in the ring and I just didn't hear it. But it was around this time that I noticed it's kind of strange because it feels like they have transitioned both Tracy and the Dirty White Boy into other feuds, except that Mr. Ron Wright still has this bounty on Tracy.
Yes.
Weird.
And it is weird. And it's weird because like White Boy really isn't being transitioned into something new. I mean, I guess he is because he's going to be feuding with Bobby
The
Blaze or
the
at least having a
disrespect,
series of matches.
the
But it's like,
disrespect to the Beat the Champ television champion.
so by the way, Kyle was pissed, which I know he shouldn't have been since this wasn't a match. But we speaking of the Beat the Champ TV title holder, we get a recap of White Boy murdering him to death last week. And we also were reminded that the Smoky Mountain Board of Directors, who are again is Sandy Scott and Mark Curtis, said they're giving Blaze a week off to recover. If you ask me, he should be stripped of the championship. Now,
Yeah,
with that said, Bobby Blaze can't wrestle, but apparently he can still come to the arena and cut a promo. So let's go to Bobby Blaze.
Last week, I won the biggest match of my life, the biggest victory of my life. I beat the Dirty White Boy. I beat the Dirty White Boy. Not only did I win the match and the TV title, I won $1,000 by beating the Dirty White Boy. Yeah, I got my brains beat out. I'm sore. You can see that. You know what? White Boy, when I looked across that ring, I saw a champion, a world-class wrestler. You looked across the ring, you saw a joke. You saw a jerk, and you fooled around, and you goofed around, and one mistake cost you. A lot of people saying, Bobby, it's a fluke. And you know what? They're right. If we wrestled 100 times, White Boy, you'd probably beat me 99 times. And I might get my brains beat out again. But one thing won't happen, and that's Bobby Blaze will not give up. I won't quit, because I'm waiting for that one time that you're going to make a mistake, and Bobby Blaze is going to win.
So I will say this, either, you know, either White Boy stiffed the fuck out of him or he did a great job of recreating that before this promo because like I first noticed the black eye. I'm like, well, that could just be done by makeup, but his fucking face is swollen. And
visually, this was fantastic. Like I said, black eye, face is all swollen, bandage on his head. I don't know. Tony might have beat the shit out of him a little bit.
Tony was shoot pissed off that he did not win the Beat the Champ TV title here. Uh,
He might have been. He might have been.
yeah.
That could have been. You know how much heart medicine $1,000 can buy?
I mean, in 1993, I bet quite a bit. Nowadays, you get one pill probably.
Uh,
Um, but yeah, like by the way, when I said that he came and he can cut a promo, I didn't mean he could cut a good promo. I just meant he had the physical capability to cut a promo. And
important distinction.
yes. So since we heard from Bobby Blaze, we might as well hear from Dirty White Boy and Mr. Ron Wright.
All right, fans, with us right now, the legendary Mr. Ron Wright, and of course the Dirty White Boy. And this is the week, Summer Blast 93. I know you guys must be ready.
Summer Blast 93, let me tell you something. They've added an extra match in there. We've got Bobby Blaze in that thing, and I'm telling you, the rules and regulations, it's just unbelievable. I'm going to enjoy this. I may enjoy this so much it may restore my health, Bob.
Well, hey, you beat up on Blaze so bad once before. What
I did, didn't I? I like to beat his stinking brains out because I don't like getting cheated. And that's exactly what happened when Bobby Blaze supposedly got the 3 count. Well, Bobby Blaze, let me tell you, it's real simple. You beat me one time, the match is over. I beat you 14, 15 times, it doesn't matter. The only way I can win the match is when you crawl out of that ring on your hands and knees and you go back to the dressing room and you tell a referee in front of God and everybody else, please, I can't take no more of the Dirty White Boy. I'll see you at the Summer Blast 93.
All right, fans, we're going to be back. We'll have more action when we come back right after this.
Right. You know what's funny? Like even though we just saw Bobby Blaze cut that promo, we saw the replay of the angle when Ron Wright started talking about White Boy's match at Summer Blast. I'm like, it took me a second. Like, who the fuck is he wrestling? So oh, he's wrestling Tracy. I'm like, oh no, he's not wrestling Tracy. Tracy's wrestling Primetime Brian Lee. Like, oh, he's wrestling. I couldn't even figure out who the hell it was until I was like, oh yeah, he's like, well, I mean, I guess if Bullet Bob could get his ass kicked and be out for 2 months, I kind of figured Bobby Blaze would be out for more than a week and a half.
Bobby Blaze is much younger.
Very true, and when you're young like that, you recover faster than most normal people. Fighters recover faster than normal people.
Yeah, and plus Bullet Bob had the injured ribs and possibly an injured knee. Bobby Blaze just mostly had a injured face.
Because Bobby Blaze, like, I would not want to come back for more. Like,
no,
yes, wrestling is fake, by the way. I don't think anybody told White Boy when
nobody told
he told
Tony
him
that.
Yes. So let's now go to what starts has a little bit of a wacky promo with the WWA World Heavyweight Champion, uh, Suicide Blonde Chris Candido. I couldn't remember his fucking nickname for a second.
All right, fans, with us right now, this young man having a tremendous amount of success in Smoky Mountain Wrestling, the Suicide Blonde himself, the WWA World Heavyweight Champion, the Suicide Blonde, Chris Candido.
Bob Call, I'm here today on this horrible television program to announce the biggest event of the century, my promotion at WWA, the World Wrestling Alliance, and its president, the great Mr. Dennis Carluzzo, is putting on a fantastic pay-per-view event, something that Smoky Mountain never does. We got Arnold Schwarzenegger versus Sylvester Stallone, Jean-Claude Van Damme versus Mike Tyson, and myself, the world champion in the main event, be defending the real World Heavyweight Championship. And maybe, wait a minute, what is this?
You know
Tim
something?
Horner.
I've heard just about all I care to hear about you, and half the wrestlers I know feel that way, and most of the fans. Let me tell you something, this is the way it goes. You come into Smoky Mountain Wrestling with that souped-up car tag you call a title from the WW wherever, claiming you're a champion of somebody. Well, let me tell you how it goes, pal. You want to be somebody in Smoky Mountain Wrestling? Let me tell you how it goes. You come in here and you go for the Smoky Mountain Heavyweight title. Or you go for the TV title. Or if you want to, get you a partner and go for the Smoky Mountain Tag Team title. That's the way it works, pal. If you want to be somebody here, that's the route to go. You don't bring some souped-up car tag in here and call yourself a champion.
I'm the world champion. You can't talk that way to me. I'm not scared of you. I'll wrestle you, Tim Horner, anytime, anywhere. I'm not scared. I'm the world champion.
You wrestle me? Let me tell you something. There's a ring right here, pal. We can get it on right now if you want to.
Warm up, but
But no, I didn't. I didn't. Why didn't I do it? What? Okay. I'll put a title on the line. That's right now. Right. I'll put the title. What did I just do?
Oh, my heavens. He said he wasn't walking. There goes Tim Horner toward the ring. And, yeah.
Do I got to do it now?
You got to do it now. He's going to put the title on the line, he said.
Okay. So this was quite the promo here. He talks about, the WWA is going to put on a pay-per-view with Jean-Claude Van Damme versus Mike Tyson. And the funny part about this is like Mike Tyson's still in jail at this point.
I was wondering if that was the timeline.
Yes. Um, but yeah, and let me tell you how it goes. Tim Horner came in, and let me tell you how it goes. You can win a Smoky Mountain title. Let me tell you how it goes. Candido said he'd wrestle Horner. Horner agreed to it, and Candido, once it was agreed to, he's like, I don't know if I really want this, but eventually, he agreed, and he put the title up. A fighting champion here, the WWA World Heavyweight Champion, uh, Chris Candido. I do not want to call him the Suicide Blonde, and it's not even just for like mental health reasons. It's just like I keep wanting to call him like Nature Boy Chris Candido, or for some reason I keep wanting to call him Nature Boy Chris Candido. You know,
The funny thing to me is that okay, he has presumably he and Tammy have moved from New Jersey to Tennessee at this point, but the ECW they tape in like middle of May. They tape shows that go from basically like the beginning of June through like the first week of August. So right now, Chris Candido is on both of these shows, and on one show he's the WWA World Champion of the World, Suicide Blonde Chris Candido, and then on the other one he is 1/3 of the trio that of the Suicide Blondes that hold the ECW Tag Team title. One of whom Johnny Hotbody has jet black hair, but he is Sir Christopher Candido.
that's amazing. By the way, you mentioned the TV title earlier, and I just remember what I was going to ask. Is it the TV title that they have in later years that has no side plates?
I have not noticed. Probably. It's like
Honestly, I would say no because it's like you would notice. Because when I was a kid, like we first got Sports Channel Philadelphia in '96 during the build to the four-way with Shane Douglas, Pitbull 2, Jericho, and Scorpio. And that was the first thing I noticed was the title had no side plates.
huh. I'm gonna look that up while we talk about the next segment here.
So we then have the match. It's WWA World Heavyweight Champion Chris Candido versus Tim Horner. Now, a few months ago, Horner wrestled a fine young athlete called the Avenger, who reminds me of the kind of guy who would one day be the world heavyweight champion of a small New Jersey promotion. They had a perfectly
So
fine match because again, we talk about how bad Tim Horner is on the mic, but we'll never take away the fact that he's a perfectly capable wrestler. Candido goes for the suicide flex, but Horner shoves him off the top rope, hits a flying crossbody for a 2 count. Finally, Candido used a chain to knock Horner out for the pin with his feet on the ropes. Now, Mark Curtis, after the 3 count, after he rang the bell, he finds the chain on the mat, and he did not see Chris Candido with the chain. He did not see Chris Candido use it to knock out Tim Horner. However, he immediately just assumes that this is Chris Candido's chain. How does he know that it's not Tim Horner's chain? Now, with that said, the funniest part of this is fucking Candido starts running away, and Mark Curtis is running after him, and then Horner's following behind them. And I just laughed at the preposterosity of this segment here.
by the way, the belt that Jimmy Snuka currently holds does not have side plates.
Okay, so it's probably the same ECW TV title. I wonder what happened
So
to that one. Because I know Van Dam has the Rob Van Dam ECW TV title, but I wonder who
yeah.
has that TV title.
I
Maybe Sh
don't know when would they
maybe
have switched it?
maybe Shane Douglas got to keep it instead of getting paid that week. Um, but
Maybe.
I'm pretty sure they had the new belt by Barely Legal because I know Taz had it when he won it.
So this was the point in the show, and you've brought it up several times this week and last week about the crowd. This is the point that I'm watching this match and I'm thinking that there's something off about it. And that was when I finally put together was that the crowd didn't give a shit. Like
Yeah.
they might have been sitting on their hands the whole time. And you are left with the impression that Christopher Candido and Timothy Horner had good matches in them, but this wasn't one of them.
You have to use their Christian names here. I don't know. Is Tim Horner's legal name Tim Horner? I don't even know.
I think
It,
so. Uh,
it,
yeah, I don't know because
it's
I accidentally because I had the ECW thing in my brain. I called him Christopher, and I'm like, well, that sounds weird. So let me make it weirder by calling Horner Timothy.
I always love wrestling names that sound like real names, and you start wondering how the hell did these people come up with it? Like when I found out that Alex Shelley and Chris Sabin's real names weren't Alex Shelley and Chris Sabin, I'm like, how the hell did you come up with Alex Shelley and Chris Sabin?
Adam
Like,
Cole is like the best example of that. It's funny
uh,
because I've heard people talk about like wrestlers that use their real names like Adam Cole. Like, wow, that's funny because and Austin Jenkins would find that very funny.
I mean, it sounds like a perfectly normal name, and to be honest, it is a better name, a better wrestling name than Austin Jenkins. I just
Tim
always
Horner's
laugh.
full name.
Mhm.
Sorry, go ahead, finish.
I always laughed that Murphy in TNA's real name was Michael Cole, and my and Michael Cole's real name isn't even Michael Cole.
Tim Horner's full name, by the way, Timothy Lee Horner.
Of course, he's so boring that he can't even like come up with a fake name. Don't you
What
love that? Like I just ripping on people or complimenting people for having wrestling names that like sound like real names. Then Horner actually uses real names. Like he's too boring to come up with a real with a gimmick name.
but what if Tim Horner became Thunderbolt Murderface?
He have a more interesting name.
Oh,
I, I,
that's
I'm imagining I'm imagining Tim Horner doing like the Road Warrior gimmick,
oh.
but but like his promos never change. It's still this Tim Horner.
Oh, yeah, just the face paint and like a weird mohawk and a bunch of leather, and then he's just still Tim Horner.
Jump on me, get me in the mood, if you know what I mean.
Is he speaking to Pam there?
No, actually, Paul Orndorff.
Oh,
Um, so let's go back to Japan because Kevin Sullivan has something to say about somebody named Kenny Mora.
Anymore, the one-armed man. We're getting closer to Summer Blast, the biggest event in Smoky Mountain wrestling history. They're bringing everything for Smoky Mountain for the Summer Blast. They're bringing a man that's going to fight me for one arm. I'm still here in Tokyo looking for you. You know you like the lamb being bled to slaughter. Bled to slaughter. Do you understand what I'm saying? That's not half bad. I kill myself.
Another fine promo by the Taskmaster there.
who may or may not still be in therapy, but really should be.
Like, we're not just talking about in 1993, we're talking about to this day. And spoiler alert, Kevin Sullivan is not currently in therapy.
He is not. He is not with us anymore.
No, he's not. Neither is Larry Santo, by the way. Because
Really?
remember when we had that gimmick for like a month after Larry Santo died that every week you would tell me, "Hey, did you know Larry Santo died?" And I think like the second time he did it, like it was like legit, like you forgot we talked about it, but because I mocked you for it, it became a running joke every time he was on.
I it's sad because he missed a taping or two, and I guess we lost track of that one.
Yep. By the way, we mentioned last week that this match does not happen at Summer Blast, any of the 7 Summer Blast shows. And we noted that Kevin Sullivan wasn't doing anything, but we never bothered to look up what Wing Kanemaru was doing. And I know he's not Wing Kanemaru yet, he's Yukihiro Kanemaru, but he's wrestling in Wing right now. And this week, among his many matches, he has a 6-man tag against El Gigante and the Headhunters, a
Oh,
tag match against Dick Murdoch and the Masked Superstar, who I'm assuming is Bill Eadie. He, yeah, and he's in a 12-man battle royal. He's also in something called Scramble Bankhouse Death.
Scramble
And the match,
Bankhouse Death.
yes, at Wing Best Champ 1993, Day 4. It was Crypt Keeper and the Headhunters defeating Miguel Perez Jr., Shoji Nakamaki, and Yukihiro Kanemaru.
Danger Man, Shoji Nakamaki. By the
By the
way,
way, Crypt Keep.
he actually had like I'm seeing at least two more singles matches with Kevin Sullivan in Wing.
He's fucking wrestling all of Los Boricuas except for Savio, it looks like. Because I looked up who Crypt Keeper was. That's Jose Estrada. He wrestles Miguel Perez and he wrestles Jesus Castillo. So why didn't he wrestle Savio Vega? I don't know. Or
Is
maybe he
he
did, and I'm
I believe he is or will soon be the WWC Caribbean Heavyweight Champion. Maybe that's why he's wrestling
Kanemaru or Savio Vega.
Kanemaru.
He at least was. Let me see. He was as of June 18th. Well, obviously it doesn't say why, but on June 18th he defends against Hurricane Castillo. He retains the title, and the next. Oh, I'm sorry. That's the wing belt. Never mind. I was gonna say the next thing was a tournament with him in it for the belt, but okay. And I'm sure you're gonna tell me why this is a thing, but his next WWC Caribbean title match, spoiler, is September 26th. He has a no contest with Jado, and it's listed as a title change.
I think because I'm looking at that too, and it looks like they did a no contest and they did a restart, and it's just,
Yeah,
the cage match system is like
it
kind of
counted as
strange
a second
sometimes.
match, even though it was one match.
Yeah, that's exactly, yeah. So yeah,
But yeah, he loses the title to Jado.
what's wrong with Jado?
Nothing at all wrong with Jado. And while we continue to discuss what's not wrong with Jado, let's go to Bullet Bob Armstrong, who's ripped.
And before we talk to the Armstrongs and the Rock and Roll Express, let's hear these words from Bullet Barb Armstrong, and then we'll be right back.
Cornette, the war starts this week, Thursday, July the 8th. Armstrong's army is rolling your way, brother. We're digging in, taking no prisoners. We're going to bear down hard. You're going to learn the lesson you should have learned a long time ago. My boys are ready. Bullet and the boys are coming to town. Notice the B stands for Bullet and bad news for you, mister, because I've been cleared. I'm as ready as I'll ever be. I feel good and I feel strong. Payback is going to be slow and painful for you. This tour, the Summer Blast, a blast that'll be heard around the wrestling world, because that'll be the finish of Jim Cornette, his farewell tour. It won't be quick, it won't be easy, and it won't be pleasant for you, because Armstrong's army is digging in and coming your way.
All right, Steve and Scott, Summer Blast 93. This is the week it all gets underway.
Brother, we've been waiting on this for a long time. Summer Blast is here, and it's now. And not only is Bullet B-A-D, double D bad, but he is back and bad to the bone, brother. How about that, Bob?
Oh, I'm telling
That's
you,
right,
Rick.
Bob. Stop and look around, because somebody said Bullet's back in town. That's what it's all about. And he's after you, Cornette. But Summer Blast is what it's all about. So bring your big old Blues Brothers on down there, because like I told the people many times, we are the Smoky Mountain Tag Team Champions. We're going to stay that way, Blues Brothers. We don't care what it takes, brother. Our back's against the wall, and we are coming out fighting. All right.
All right, fans, this is the week. Summer Blast 93. We'll be back. We'll have more right after this.
Wrestling.
Okay. So I wrote Bullet Bob is ripped, and he's going to rip Corny to shreds. And then, well, sometimes you're right, sometimes you're wrong, because when they went back to the promo with the babyface tag teams, I wrote what I predicted they were going to say, which was Scott and Steve talk about how fat Jim Cornette is, and Ricky says that rock and roll is here to stay. They ain't here to play. Neither of those things happened.
Always keep you guessing. I wrote that
Yes.
Bob Armstrong was coming to Summer Blast to compromise Jim Cornette to a permanent end.
I would say John Cena will never live that down, except like it's only people like you and I that remember that.
I mean, it's so fucking funny. I don't know why. It's just such a
It's like
funny. Oh,
it was such a PG way of saying that it's like, and I kind of wonder because because it just got announced like around the time of the main event. So it's not like, oh, they knew about it for 3 hours and then Cena said it at the end, so they had time to devise a very PG way of saying this. So it's like at some point Vince told Cena and told Cena to cut a promo after the match. And did Vince come up with this absurd line, or did Cena, in the middle of wrestling The Miz and John Morrison in a cage match, come up with this preposterous line himself?
that doesn't feel like a Vince line. That feels like it came out of John Cena's head. His Vince told him to do a promo, and then his robot programming kicked in for a PG way to say what he needed to say, and he came up with that.
Say what you mean to say. Say what you mean to say. So us talking about a 2011 John Cena promo, in my opinion, is more interesting than Jimmy Del Rey versus Steve Armstrong. And hey, what makes this podcast fun is if you disagree with me. So I'm interested to see if you disagree with me on this one. Steve and Scott Armstrong, like a few weeks ago, I was talking about how it's like they're doing so great, this, that, and the other thing. At this point, they're killing the tag team division. Like, I
Huh.
am so not interested in watching them. And I say this like I get that they're good wrestlers. Hey, Tim Horner's a good wrestler too. But it's like Steve has the personality of dried cement. In fact, that's an insult to dried cement. And it's like I said last week, there's a reason him and Scott never got more than they did. And, they're just, it's just not, I don't know. Like, what do you think?
I thought this was good for the time that they had, and I really just wish they would have had more time. Like I feel like if you gave them, I don't know, 10, 12 minutes, they'd have had a barn burner. But uh yeah, I
I
don't
mean, they had
know.
like seven, I think they.
Five and a half. But I don't know. I hadn't really thought of that, so I was kind of mulling it over. It's like the tag division, such as it is, it's like it's two programs which are kind of like they're not quite the same program, but they are very intertwined. It's the rock and roll against the Bruise Brothers, and then the personal issue with the Bodies and the Armstrongs, and that's like the whole tag division. Although now I want to know if when the Bruise Brothers win the tag titles, if they're gonna have to defend them against the team that defeated them of not that Jeff Daniels and Robbie Eagle, not Robbie Eagles.
I would hope so. If I was not that Jeff Daniels and not Robbie Eagles, but Robbie Eagle, I would demand it too, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
Um,
I don't know. It's
so the
hard. I like. I'm sorry.
I would
It,
say go
it
ahead.
I don't know. I understand the complaint. I don't know. It's hard to really think of it as a division when it's like four teams and two programs, and I don't know. I I don't know. I
I
am
mean
not
this
quite
mm,
there with the rock and roll and the Blues Brothers program, and maybe it's just I don't have the capacity to be that interested in the Harris Brothers wrestling ever. But like,
yeah.
the Armstrongs and Bodies and Cornettes program is good, I guess.
I mean, but this is how they do the tag team division the rest of the way. You'll notice there's always going to be two face tag teams. There's always going to be two heel tag teams. And like I get it, hey, you only have so much money to go around for talent, so you can't do, 3-3 or 4-4, you know. So, but still, it's like it leads to a lot of repetition, especially since the Rock and Roll Express are pretty much here till the end, almost. Um,
The
but
show
Steve, so Jimmy Del Rey for weeks now has been making fun of Steve Armstrong's girlfriend. And Steve Armstrong has never brought it up in a promo. However, he races to the ring to start the match because he's pissed about what Jimmy Del Rey says about his girlfriend. It's like, okay, you're so mad about it. You've never brought it up once since we've been doing the show. Um, Spoiler alert, no one cares. I know the crowd is tired as fuck. It's the last match they're seeing after 3+ hours of professional wrestling the way it used to be and the way you like it. I wrote Del Rey used the mustache ride, but once I heard that that's something Joey Ryan may have used, I may have to stop using that from now on. But Steve kicked out. He missed it a second time, and Steve made a comeback. He hits a flying crossbody when Corny hits the referee for the disqualification. Dr. Tom runs in, and we had a 3-on-1 before Scott made the save. Fans, and I wrote this in all caps, do not care. Bruise Brothers hit the ring to make it 4-on-2. Fans still don't care, except they do start chanting for rock and roll, who do eventually make the save as the show comes to its inevitable conclusion.
how about
And this is the
the
show I thought was better than last week.
how about the Gigolo Jam?
There you go.
So
Ah,
yeah, I thought this was a great brawl here in the go home show for Survivor Series. I mean Summer Blast.
75 down, 125 to go. It's like
This is gonna get worse, isn't it?
funny enough, like well, the tag team division. The tag team division is going to get worse because there is a team on their way in at the end of the year who are the epitome of worse. And
Oh God.
yes.
Oh,
But
I don't.
it's like the singles divisions, you know, there's a lot of good stuff on the way. And I mentioned last week was step one of my favorite angle in Smoky Mountain history, or step one to my favorite moment in Smoky Mountain history. This week, step two. Um,
I
so,
was just trying to do the math and remember when does Cactus Jack come in? That's not for a long time, is it? That's like late
oh yeah, no,
94 into 95.
yeah, he's not in for very long either. Like he's in, I think he comes in for Thanksgiving Thunder and Christmas Chaos, and then he's gone. I think.
Hmm. At least he had the iconic "Oh Candido, I'll make you bleedo" promo.
Yes, but then he's teaming with fucking what was Balls Mahoney's name?
Boo Bradley.
Yes, Boo Bradley. I was trying to think of To Kill a Mockingbird, and I couldn't think of the character's name for a second.
Bradley. Yeah.
Yes.
I
And
tell
and
you,
here I thought, remember when WWE had Kenny Dykstra and Bam Neely? It's like those are some cringy names. Boo Bradley was pretty bad.
I have not trusted a book since To Kill a Mockingbird didn't tell me anything useful about killing mockingbirds.
Uh, I, and that I when did you read that? I think I read that in ninth grade, maybe 10th.
Uh, 11th or 12th. I think it was probably 11th grade.
My God, what was that movie set or not? Well, it was a movie. What was that book set in the 20s that everybody read in school? Um, with that one rich guy who kept throwing parties, and there was some guy that lived uh either next door or on site, and they ended up becoming friends or some shit.
The Great Gatsby.
Yes, I fucking hated that. We had to
Uh,
read that when I went back to school a few years ago for English, and I was like, this is fucking torture. We had to read a
yeah, I
chapter a
read.
week and write like a little thing about it every week. I was like, this is professional torture right now. I'm paying you to torture me. This is
I think I read that in 11th grade too. I think I think my 11th grade English class was American literature and the 12th grade was British literature.
shout out to my high school English teachers who did not make me read The Great Gatsby. By the way, 75 down, 125 to go, meaning we are in fact 37.5% of the way through Smoky Mountain Wrestling.
What if we had Kurt Angle into the mix?
And the odds of us being finished drastically go down.
Drastic go down. What
Now,
else happened in the worldwide world of sports this week?
see, I think you're going to have some stuff to say about this first topic because you are our resident Japanese history expert. Antonio Inoki had a business breakup with longtime business manager
Uh, uh-huh.
Hasashi Shinma. Am I pronouncing that first name
Yep.
right? And then
Yep.
fired a secretary who went public with what ended up being an 8-part story specifying allegations of illegal activities and misuse of funds by Inoki. Inoki held a press conference blaming his accusers and denying all accusations before refusing to resign from the Japanese Diet, or the Senate. His accusations include tax fraud, tax evasion, and accepting a payoff to drop out of the race for mayor of Tokyo.
Yeah, I just read that whole saga in the 93 Wrestling Observer yearbook. And I don't know, well, it kind of peters out, so I don't know how it ends because it's only got like whatever was in 1993. But the gist, the main like beat of the story is that Inoki, like, he's had like several controversies in his career. Like there was the in like 1971 there was the issue where he was accused of I don't know, embezzling or something that led to him being fired from the JWA and starting New Japan. And then in like 82 or 83, there was another issue where he was, I think, being accused of embezzling from New Japan, and he ended up like stepping down as like head of the company. And then there's this he got into politics, I think in like 89, and it's like so it's like a 6-year term. So he's got 2 years left, and he's a fucking worker. And he thought that he could deal with real life problems the same way he did with wrestling bullshit, which is why he goes and tries to, just say that his accusers are spreading vicious lies about him. It I hate to speak ill of someone who has had such a profound positive influence on my wrestling fandom, but Antonio Inoki was kind of a scumbag. And so
Um,
he he's just trying to turn this into a work and control the narrative the way he always has. And at one point, like he's trying to make like a wrestling comeback to distract everybody. And then there's even a little while that New Japan is like, no, you gotta wait for the heat to die down before we can bring you back in. But think I think he is back for the January 4th, 1994 Tokyo Dome show, which was when he wrestled Tenru, and I think yeah, so that's a match that he lost to Tenru, so maybe that was part of the maybe that was part of him paying his penance or something.
I like that, like you're basically apologizing for, saying nice or almost saying nice things about Inoki, and it's like, you know, Vince McMahon, you know, it's like it's I'm not saying it's hard to wrap my mind around Vince McMahon being a scumbag, but it's like it's hard to not recognize that you and I probably would not be sitting here right now having this conversation if not for Vince McMahon. And
True.
it's like, at like I'm not going to sit here and thank him for what he's done, but at the same time, he has inadvertently given me the ability to be a peripheral part of the wrestling business, you know.
Here's the thing. So Vince McMahon's wrestling was the first wrestling I ever saw. The thing with me is that like immediately I was like, I want to see all the different wrestling that I can. So like within a month of discovering WWF, I had also discovered like WCW and ECW.
Mhm.
So I have never been loyal to any wrestling company. I don't like every wrestling company. I just like the medium of pro wrestling. So I don't know. I'll watch pretty much any company if they're doing something I'm interested in seeing.
I think I mentioned this, but yeah, we didn't have TBS until like 1998. So it's like until Nitro started, the only WCW we got was worldwide. And so it's like it was hard to not you know, it was hard to not whatchamacallit, you know, if I'm gonna be a wrestling fan, just be into the WWF until like, I read the After mags and I got action figures of WWF wrestlers and all that shit. It's like it was a slow process, but like by the point that I was really into other companies, it's like I was already uh, you know, head over heels for the WWF.
So I have a trivia question for you.
I hope I have a trivia answer for you.
Can you name the only two people to pin both Giant Baba and Antonio Inoki?
I
I'll give you
ha
one hint. It's one Japanese and one American.
Hogan?
No, Hogan never wrestled Baba. I don't know that he ever
Really?
pinned Inoki either. He knocked him out and beat him on a count out without him. I don't think he ever pinned Inoki. Maybe he did.
Okay.
I'm not.
He never saw Baba? I don't know. For some reason, I just kind of assumed he did.
Yeah, I was gonna say he never worked for All Japan, but technically he was on the Japan US Wrestling Summit show that was like a co-promotion of All Japan and WWF.
Um, Inoki and Baba. Like that? Brody? No. Snuka?
No,
No. What'd you say?
no, no.
Um, yeah, my Japanese wrestling knowledge is really, really lacking. Um, because like I'm just trying to think of like who the hell would Inoki have let beat him, especially a Gaijin. And I don't know why, and I know this isn't correct, but the first name that popped in my head when he said that was fucking Scott Norton. So Scott Norton,
The American is going to be somebody that's super obvious when you hear
is it one of the Road Warriors?
it. No.
No. Um, can I get a another hint, like maybe a time frame?
Uh,
What was that?
let- I was thinking, okay, it would have been, I can't remember when exactly he pinned Baba. It would have been the late 80s, probably. Inoki would have been early 80s.
Jeez. Hanson? It was Hanson.
Yes, Hanson. It's
Oh,
Hanson.
okay. And then Japanese. I will never guess this. Might as well just like name every Japanese wrestler I know of.
It
Saruda.
was Tenru.
Nice. I mean, it makes sense, I guess.
I thought of it because I had just referred to the match where Tenru pinned Inoki.
Of course you did. By the way, I still have two other things to discuss in this week in wrestling.
Okay, tell us.
Uh, Lex Luger turned babyface, which is less interesting than me trying to guess Japanese wrestling trivia, to be honest. Lex Luger turned babyface on July 4th by showing up on the deck of the USS Intrepid and slamming Yokozuna. He will apparently challenge Yoko for the WWF title at SummerSlam, and I am sure he wins the belt and sets off a new glorious a boom period.
I mean, it'd be stupid if he didn't, right?
I can't imagine any dumbass not doing it. But
You
then,
can't.
mhm,
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, then in the more things change, the more they stay the same department. In the August issue of the WWF magazine, they posted a statement that reads, "The World Wrestling Federation magazine has always been published with entertaining and informative articles for you, our fans. However, in the upcoming issues, Titan Sports and the World Wrestling Federation will address some malicious issues that have confronted and unjustly challenged our company over the past 2 years. There have been libelous remarks and vicious newspaper and magazine articles written. The tabloid media has choked when they tried reading this. Pardon me. The tabloid media has had a field day with us, and we have been subjected to tactics bordering on McCarthyism. We have spent a great deal of time, effort, energy, and money combating the lies and innuendo, countering with our own lawsuits, and we are continuing to investigate the reasons for this witch hunt. Now it's time for us to tell our story about Tom Cole, Rita Chatterton, Murray Hodgson, superstar Billy Graham, David Schultz, and others who have possibly aided and abetted in spreading gossip and lies. Starting next month, we will do just that. In other words, they're going to use this magazine to fire back at people who wronged them."
It was Vince that came up with the McCarthyism line.
Oh yeah, that screams Vince McMahon. Um,
So
it's
fucking
funny because it's
ridiculous.
like I don't know if Vince knew that he was currently being investigated by the federal government for steroid distribution, but
He
if
definitely
I'm
did.
okay, well, if I'm correct, they only published one part, and like they said, it was going to be like a six-part thing, because like right after the first part was when he got indicted.
I just remember it took me so fucking long to get through that section of the 93 Wrestling Was Every Yearbook. The whole thing on the steroid trial, which is why it was fresh in my mind and why I knew that yeah, Dave was writing about it every week in the Observer.
It's kind of amazing that it's like they were so. I mean, it's Vince McMahon, so I guess nothing's really that amazing. But it's like he was. I don't want to say naive, but it's like when what's his name got put in jail. It's like I bet he thought that was the end of it. It's like, okay, well, I'm
Horian.
instituting. Yeah, Zahorian. I couldn't think of his last name. I'm like, it's George something, but it's not Weingroff. Um, the only George apparently who exists is George Weingroff. So it's like I can totally picture him thinking, okay, they got their guy. He's in jail, and I'm going to, have this steroid policy, which is the closest thing to a legitimate steroid policy that the WWF has ever had. And yeah, and then I imagine to some degree he was probably surprised they actually went through with it.
Well, at least this will be the last time that Vince McMahon is ever investigated by the federal government, right?
Definitely. Definitely. I was actually kind of surprised like a few months ago, or maybe it was a year ago at this point, when the story was that the FBI raided his house or something, because it was right at the same time that, you know, the FBI was raiding Trump. It's like, I bet it has something to do with Trump. And I don't think it ever really came out what the raid was about, but yeah.
Yeah. By the way, man, fucking Diddy, what the fuck? It's crazy, right?
Yeah. I, it's like, I'm not going to be able to watch any fucking WrestleMania from now on, am I?
You remember fuck what was that Diddy Dirty Money?
Yes,
God, that was horrible.
indeed. Um, the number of disclaimers I'm gonna have to start writing in my books, like, I'm going to talk about awful people or allegedly awful people. And
What do you make
yeah,
what do you make of the story that Diddy put the hit out on Tupac?
I don't think I saw that part, but yeah, that's just, you know, whatever, you know. But
Whatever.
I don't know what to say. So let's wrap things up. Tell people about the Oh My God cast.
The Oh My God cast and ECW retrospective. We are journeying to the land of extreme. We're still in the East right now. We are roughly the plan is to stay at about the same time as we are doing the Smoky Mountain reviews, just because that's convenient for me because I've just been doing a deep dive into 1993. So I have been watching Raw, WCW Saturday Night, Eastern Championship Wrestling, Smoky Mountain Wrestling, All Japan TV. I just started, and then there's like random, just like whatever I have from the time period. So far, I've watched like one All Japan Women's show. I've watched a couple of Michinoku Pro shows, which were in like the first few months of Michinoku Pro, and it's I don't know. I'm having a
I,
good time. And if you check out go over to ohmygodcast.com, me and my buddy Benny Dangerously, we are reviewing Eastern Championship Wrestling.
I have to ask, is this my fault? Because, I got you into the Smoky Mountain 93 stuff. Is it my fault that like you're just like, okay, I gotta watch as much 93 as possible?
Uh it's you caused it, but it's not your fault. That's just
The way it is.
my like that's my ADHD, possibly a touch of the autism kicks in.
Well, we've made it an hour and 45 minutes. I think it's a good time to wrap
On the
things up.
the second show is an hour and
Yes.
45 minutes. Oh my god.
Yes.
We
At 10
started
o'clock.
at about 10. Yeah, it was 10 after 9 my time, and it is 12:59 a.m. my time right now. So yeah.
Yeah.
Good night, everybody.
See everyone next week.